Have you ever seen a
It's all
5-year-old
right,
walk
little
barefoot through a Colorado blizzard, carrying her
I'm
baby
here.
brothers in her arms? If you've ever lost someone, or
Grace
found
Carter.
hope when you least expected it, this story will break you and then heal you. Tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop a comment below. Because some storms don't destroy us, they lead us home. The wind screamed through the mountains that night, sweeping across the roads of Silver Pine National Park like a living thing. Snow came down in heavy sheets, burying everything in white. Beneath that endless storm, a small figure moved slowly. Stubbornly, a 5-year-old girl named Lily Carter. Her tiny arms clutched 2 newborns, wrapped in a damp blanket. Each step sank deep into the snowdrifts. Her feet were bare. Her mother's voice still echoed in her mind. If something happens, find your Uncle Nathan. He lives in the glass house on the hill. He'll keep you safe. Lily didn't really know where that was. She only knew that stopping meant the babies would stop breathing. The cold bit into her skin until she could no longer feel her toes. The wind howled like wolves behind her, and she whispered to the twins against her chest. Shh. It's okay. Ethan. Eli. We're almost there. Her lips were blue, her voice barely a thread in the storm. Behind her, the small cabin they had been hiding in was gone, swallowed by snow and silence. Her mother had promised to come back, just needed to find help, but she never did. And now, Lily was all that stood between life and death for the 3 of them. A flash of gold blinked through the white ahead. A light. Maybe a house. Maybe warmth. She forced her legs to move faster, half walking, half crawling. The blanket slipped. She stopped only long enough to pull it tight again over the babies' faces, shielding them from the bitter air. Her vision blurred. The wind cut her breath short. She stumbled, fell, face first into the snow, but rolled to keep the babies from hitting the ground. A sharp pain shot through her knee. Tears froze before they could fall. She whispered again, "Don't be scared. Mommy said he'll help us. He has to." Through the blur of snow, something loomed in the distance, tall, dark, and gleaming. A mansion. Its windows glowed faintly, like amber eyes. She dragged herself forward until she reached the gates, iron and cold to the touch. Her small hand hit the metal 3 times. Clang. 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 The sound was barely audible over the wind, but she kept knocking until her strength failed and she collapsed beside the gate, her breath coming in ragged, shallow bursts. Inside the mansion, Dr. Nathan Cole sat alone by the fire, a glass of whiskey untouched on the table. The storm outside was brutal, but he didn't flinch. Solitude was his closest companion now. He hadn't expected visitors for years. But then there it was. A faint, hollow knocking. Once, twice, 3 times. At first, he thought it was just the wind. Then it came again, softer, desperate. He rose, walked to the door, and when he opened it, the storm burst in like a wave. Snow whirled across the marble floor. And lying there motionless was a child. Her hair was frozen in strands of gold, her face ghost white, her hands still clutching 2 small bundles. For a moment, Nathan couldn't move. His instincts as a surgeon kicked in before his mind could catch up. He dropped to his knees, checked for a pulse faint. But there, he scooped the children into his arms, shouting, "Rosa, get blankets now." The housekeeper ran from the kitchen, stopped cold at the sight, and whispered, "Oh dear God." Nathan tore off his coat, wrapping it around the girl. As he lifted her higher, something small slipped from the edge of the blanket and landed on the floor with a soft metallic clink. A silver bracelet. He bent down, picked it up, and wiped away the frost. The engraving shimmered faintly under the firelight. Property of Grace Carter. His breath caught in his throat. That name impossible, buried under years of silence and anger. The sister he hadn't spoken to in a decade. The sister he had sworn he would never forgive. The storm outside roared louder, shaking the glass walls as if the mountain itself demanded an answer. Nathan stood frozen, the bracelet trembling in his hand, staring at the unconscious child who looked heartbreakingly familiar. And then, beneath the howl of the wind, he heard it, the faintest sound of one of the babies crying. He turned toward the fire, heart pounding, whispering to himself, "Grace, what have you done?" The fire crackled, fighting back the cold that had followed them inside. The glass walls of the mansion trembled under the weight of the storm. But inside, a different kind of silence fell heavy, uncertain, alive. Dr. Nathan Cole knelt beside the hearth, wrapping the two infants in warm towels while the little girl lay motionless on the couch. Her skin was pale, lips bluish, lashes stiff with frost. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. The pulse was weak but steady. "Rosa," he said quietly, his voice tighter than he intended. "Warm milk, more blankets, and call emergency services." The housekeeper moved fast, her hands shaking as she lit another fire. "Who are they, doctor?" she whispered. "I don't know," he muttered. "But she walked through a blizzard with them." He looked again at the bracelet lying on the table, silver, scratched, and old. Grace Carter. The name wouldn't leave his mind. 10 years since their last words. 10 years since he told her never to come back. He glanced at the girl, her small hands still clenched around the edge of the blanket as if protecting her brothers. For a moment, he saw Grace as a child, laughing, stubborn, chasing him through the snow when they were young. He swallowed hard. "It can't be," he whispered. "Not her children." The firelight flickered over his face as he rubbed the infant's arms, their skin cold but soft. One of them whimpered a fragile, trembling sound that filled the room like hope. Rosa crossed herself, murmuring a prayer in Spanish. After a few minutes, the girl stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes the same green as Grace's. She stared at him, dazed, her voice barely audible. "Are you Uncle Nate?" Nathan froze. The world seemed to stop spinning. "What did you say?" "Mommy said you'd help us," she whispered, her voice cracked but sure. "She said you're the good one." His chest tightened. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. He pulled a blanket higher around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said softly. "You did so good, sweetheart. You're safe." She blinked slowly, her tiny hand reaching for his sleeve. "Mommy said the house with the glass would have light," she murmured, and then her eyes closed again, falling into exhausted sleep. Nathan sat back, staring into the fire, the warmth stinging his frozen hands. Grace's name burned in his thoughts. He remembered the day she left her words echoing through the hallway. "You can't fix everything, Nathan. Sometimes love means staying, not saving." He had let pride build these walls of glass around him, convinced he needed no one. Yet now, love had literally arrived on his doorstep in the shape of a child he didn't know, carrying the legacy of the sister he'd failed. Rosa returned, setting a cup of warm milk beside him. "You think it's her, don't you?" He nodded slowly. "It has to be." "What will you do?" she asked. Nathan looked toward the sleeping girl, the 2 tiny forms beside her, the storm raging just beyond the windows. He exhaled, voice barely above a whisper. "First, I keep them alive. Then, I find out what happened to Grace." Outside, the wind began to quiet, replaced by the soft hiss of falling snow. Inside, the mansion, once a museum of silence, breathed again. Nathan picked up the silver bracelet and turned it in his hand. The letters glowed faintly in the firelight, like a message meant only for him. He looked toward the sleeping child and murmured, "Grace, if this is your doing, tell me where you are." The lights flickered once. A soft crack echoed through the chimney, and somewhere deep in the house, a phone began to ring. Morning light spilled through the glass walls of the mansion, soft and golden after the long storm. The world outside was silent, blanketed in snow. But inside, the house no longer felt empty. The faint cries of infants and the smell of coffee filled the air. For the first time in years, Dr. Nathan Cole wasn't alone. He stood by the window, staring out at the frozen valley, his reflection faint in the glass. On the table behind him sat the silver bracelet, Grace Carter. The letters caught the sunlight like a scar that never faded. Rosa moved quietly around the room, humming under her breath while warming milk for the twins. The little girl, Lily, sat wrapped in a thick blanket on the couch, watching the fire with cautious eyes. Her hair was still damp, her cheeks pale but warm again. Nathan turned to her. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" She looked up, voice small. "Better. But Mommy hasn't come yet." He hesitated. "We'll find her," he said gently. "I promise." She nodded, studying his face as if weighing whether to believe him. "Mommy said you like snow," she murmured. "She said you live in a house made of light." That made his throat tighten. "She told you that?" Lily smiled faintly. "She said you were mad at her. But she also said you'd forgive her one day." The words hit him harder than the cold ever had. He turned away, pretending to fix the fire, his jaw tight. Forgive her? He hadn't even known how to forgive himself. When Rosa placed a plate of pancakes in front of the girl, Lily whispered, "Thank you." Then, after a moment, she added softly, "Uncle Nate?" He froze. She had never called him that before. "Yes?" "Mommy said you could fix broken things." Nathan swallowed. "I try," he said quietly. "But some things take time." After breakfast, he went to his office, a space that had gathered dust for years. He powered on his computer and began searching every hospital in the region. Seattle, Spokane, Denver. No one named Grace Carter had been admitted in the past month. The longer he searched, the tighter his chest became. When Rosa entered with coffee, he was still staring at the screen. "You won't find peace in that machine," she said softly. "I'm not looking for peace," he replied. "I'm looking for my sister." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe you'll find both." He rubbed his eyes. If she was sick, if she was desperate enough to send her kids out there alone, he couldn't finish. The guilt clawed at him. That afternoon, Lily wandered into his office, holding a small crayon drawing. "I made this," she said proudly. He smiled faintly. The picture showed a woman with long hair, standing beside 3 small children under a sundae. "That's Mommy," she said, pointing. "She said the sun always comes back." Nathan's voice faltered. "It does, Lily. It always does." Then she frowned, as if remembering something. "There was a nice lady who helped Mommy sometimes. She worked in a place with lots of papers and phones. Mommy said her name was Erica." He leaned forward. "Erica." "What?" "Erica Johnson, I think. She had hair like sunshine." Nathan immediately began typing, searching. Within minutes, he found her a social worker in Seattle, specializing in family assistance. His heart pounded as he dialed. "Erica Johnson," came a calm voice on the other end. "Miss Johnson, this is Dr. Nathan Cole. I believe you worked with my sister, Grace Carter." Silence. Then a quiet intake of breath. "You're Grace's brother? Oh my God. We've been trying to reach her. She disappeared 3 weeks ago." Nathan gripped the phone tighter. "Disappeared? From where?" "From a boarding house near downtown Seattle," Erica said. "She was very sick, Dr. Cole. Leukemia. She refused treatment because she didn't want to be separated from her children. The last time I saw her, she said she was going to find her brother before it was too late." The line crackled, but her next words still sliced through him. "She said you'd forgive her someday." Nathan's hand trembled. His reflection in the glass looked like a stranger's. He turned toward the living room, where Lily was playing quietly with her brothers, the firelight glowing around her. He whispered, "She was trying to find me." Outside, snow began to fall again, slow, soft, endless. And somewhere far away, in a city he had long avoided, his sister might still be waiting. He looked down at the silver bracelet, clenched it in his fist, and said, "I'm coming, Grace. I swear it." The road stretched endlessly west, cutting through the pale dawn of late December. Snow gave way to rain as Dr. Nathan Cole's SUV rolled into Washington State. The wipers beat a steady rhythm, and in the back seat, Lily Carter sat clutching a folded drawing of her mother. Her brothers slept in their carriers, small chests rising and falling, like fragile promises. "Are we close, Uncle Nate?" she asked, her voice soft over the hum of the engine. He smiled faintly in the rearview mirror. "Almost there, sweetheart. Seattle's just ahead." Beside him, Rosa Martinez murmured a prayer. "The city of rain," she said quietly. "Maybe it'll wash away what's left of the storm." Nathan didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the gray horizon, where the skyline appeared tall, distant, and waiting. They found Erica Johnson at a small community office, tucked between a laundromat and a bakery. She greeted them with kind eyes and weary understanding. "Grace talked about you all the time," she said to Nathan. "She believed you'd forgive her. She just wanted her children to be safe before the illness took her strength." Lily listened carefully, gripping Nathan's hand tighter. Erica hesitated, then pulled a notepad from her drawer. "The last address we had for her was a rooming house near the riverfront, room 314, but she left a note there before she disappeared." Nathan unfolded the paper. Grace's handwriting trembled across the page. "If he ever finds this, tell him I waited by the blue cafe. The one by the river. He'll know it when he sees it." Hours later, they parked in front of a small riverside cafe with faded blue walls and a hand-painted sign that read, "The Blue River Cafe." Inside, the smell of cinnamon and coffee lingered. A young barista glanced at the photo Nathan showed her. "Yes," she said softly. "She used to sit right there, by the window. Said she was waiting for someone." Nathan turned toward the table by the window. The rain traced lines down the glass. A half-empty mug still sat there, abandoned long ago. Lily pressed her face to the window. "She was really here," she whispered. "She was," Nathan said quietly, his throat tight. "And she believed I'd come." Then Erica's phone rang. She stepped aside, listening. When she returned, her face was pale. "They found her," she said. "Seattle Medical Center, room 314. She was admitted under an emergency transfer this morning." Nathan's breath caught. He didn't wait. Within minutes, they were back in the car, the rain pounding harder, washing the city in silver streaks. As the hospital came into view, Lily leaned forward from the back seat. "Uncle Nate?" "Yes, sweetheart." She looked up at him, eyes shining with hope and fear. "Do you think she's still waiting?" He gripped the steering wheel tighter, voice low but steady. "I think she never stopped." The rain followed them all the way to Seattle Medical Center, soft and unrelenting, as if the sky itself refused to stop crying. "Doctor." Nathan Cole moved through the sterile hallways with a pounding heart, the sound of his own footsteps echoing like thunder in his ears. He clutched his coat, fighting to keep his hands from shaking. A nurse led them down a long corridor, her voice low. "Room 314. She's stable for now, but she's weak." Nathan paused outside the door, the silver bracelet cold in his palm. Behind him, Lily Carter whispered to Rosa, "Is Mommy inside?" Rosa nodded softly. "Sí, mi niña. She's waiting for you." Nathan pushed open the door. The smell of antiseptic hit him first, then the faint sound of a monitor beeping in rhythm with a fragile heart. Grace Carter lay against the white sheets, her skin pale, hair thin. But when her eyes opened, those same green eyes, as Lily's, the world stopped. "Grace," Nathan breathed. His voice cracked on her name. For a long moment, she just stared at him, disbelief softening into a trembling smile. You came. He stepped closer, unable to speak, and she reached for his hand with weak fingers. I thought I'd never see you again. Nathan knelt beside her bed. I should have come years ago. Grace's voice was faint but warm. We were so foolish back then. You built walls. I ran from mine. But you kept your promise. You found them. Her gaze drifted toward the corner where Lily stood, frozen in the doorway. My baby. Lily ran forward, tears spilling before she even reached the bed. Grace gathered her close, trembling with emotion. You found him, she whispered to her daughter. I told you he'd help us. Lily nodded, crying into her mother's gown. I did, Mommy. I walked all the way. Nathan's throat tightened as he reached for Grace's other hand. We'll get you through this. I'll find the best doctors, whatever it takes. But Grace just smiled sadly. Nathan, it's too late for that. He shook his head. Don't say that. We can still. She stopped him gently. No. Listen. I need you to promise me something. Her voice grew weaker, but her eyes held his firmly. If I don't make it, promise me, you'll keep them together. Don't let them be alone. Not like we were. Nathan gripped her hand, tears blurring his vision. Grace, don't. Promise me. He swallowed hard, nodding. I promise. A shadow moved in the doorway. A man's voice broke the silence. Well, isn't this touching? Nathan turned sharply. Mark Reynolds, Grace's estranged husband, stepped into the room, rain dripping from his coat. His smile was cold. I see. You've been busy playing hero. Grace's face drained of color. Mark, please. Not here. I came for what's mine, he said. My kids. Nathan rose slowly, his voice low but dangerous. You need to leave. Mark laughed. You think you can keep them from me? You couldn't even keep your own family alive. The room went still. Grace winced, her hand tightening around Nathan's. Mark, stop. But he didn't. He stepped closer, eyes blazing. You think you're some kind of savior, doctor? You're nothing. Those kids, Nathan cut him off. You don't get to talk about them. Or her. For a long, tense moment, the two men stood inches apart, the rain pounding against the window like a heartbeat. Finally, Mark sneered and backed away. This isn't over. He turned and left without another word. The silence that followed was unbearable. Grace's breathing was shallow, her strength fading. Nathan sat again, gripping her hand as the monitor beeped faster, then slower. It's okay, he whispered. He's gone. Grace smiled weakly, eyes heavy. Promise me again, you'll keep them safe. Tears streamed down his face. I swear it. Her hand slipped from his, falling softly against the sheets. The monitor flatlined, a single, endless tone cutting through the room. Lily's sobs broke the silence. Rosa gathered her into her arms, whispering prayers through her own tears. Nathan sat frozen, his world collapsing and rebuilding all at once around the weight of one promise. Outside, the storm began to fade, replaced by a faint silver light breaking through the clouds. Nathan looked down at his sister's still face and whispered, Rest now, Grace. I'll keep them safe. I swear on my life. Then, somewhere deep inside him, something shifted, grief turning into resolve. The road back to Colorado stretched long and quiet beneath a pale winter Sunday. The storm was gone, but the silence that followed felt heavier than snow. Doctor. Nathan Cole drove with both hands tight on the wheel, the promise he'd made to Grace echoing with every mile. In the back seat, Lily Carter sat between two car seats, holding her baby brothers as they slept. She looked out the window, her voice barely above a whisper. Mommy's up there now. Isn't she? Nathan nodded, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Yes, sweetheart. She's watching over us. Rosa, seated beside her, added softly. And she's proud of you, menina. Very proud. Hours passed. The world changed from rain to snow again as they climbed into the mountains of silver pine. When they reached the mansion, the sun was setting light, spilling through the glass walls, warm and golden. What had once been a house of silence now held the weight of new life. Nathan carried the twins inside first, Rosa following with Lily. The moment he stepped into the great hall, he stopped. The air smelled like wood smoke and cinnamon. It no longer felt empty. It felt lived in. Over the next few weeks, life quietly rearranged itself. The nursery became a soft ocean of blankets, bottles, and lullabies. Rosa filled the kitchen with the sound of Spanish songs and the smell of warm bread. Lily's laughter began to echo through the hallways, something the house hadn't heard in years. But the world outside didn't stay silent for long. One cold morning, as Nathan reviewed paperwork from the hospital, a letter arrived, a legal notice. Mark Reynolds was filing for custody of the twins and visitation rights for Lily. Rosa read over his shoulder, gasping. He wouldn't dare. Nathan exhaled slowly. He would. And he will. The following week, they were summoned to a hearing in Denver. Nathan stood before the judge, calm but unyielding. Across the room, Mark sat with his lawyer, smug and confident. The judge reviewed the case carefully, questioning both men. When Erica Johnson, the social worker, took the stand, she spoke firmly. Before her passing, Grace Carter signed a written declaration transferring temporary guardianship of all 3 children to Dr. Nathan Cole. She told me she trusted no one else. The courtroom fell silent. Mark's confidence cracked. The judge looked up. Until further notice, custody remains with Dr. Cole. Mr. Reynolds, you are prohibited from contact. Rosa squeezed Nathan's hand as relief flooded through him. Outside, Lily jumped into his arms, laughing through her tears. Mommy said you'd protect us. He smiled, holding her close. And I always will. That night, back in Silver Pine, he stood at the window watching snow fall over the valley. The fire behind him flickered warmly. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He whispered to the sky, I kept my word, Grace. Then, from the children's room, a small voice called out, Uncle Nate, come see the lights. He turned and froze. Through the glass wall, the night sky shimmered with ribbons of green and violet. The northern lights, rare and breathtaking, above the Colorado peaks. Lily pressed her hand to the glass, eyes wide with wonder. Mommy's painting the sky, she said softly. Nathan felt something deep within him heal, piece by piece, under that dancing light. The northern lights drifted like slow-moving fire across the night sky, casting a soft green glow over the snow-covered valley. Doctor. Nathan Cole stood by the glass wall, arms folded, watching Lily Carter spin in circles on the balcony, her laughter rising like a song against the wind. Uncle Nate, she called. Mommy said when the sky dances, it means angels are happy. He smiled faintly. Then they must be smiling tonight, sweetheart. Inside the mansion, Rosa Martinez rocked the twins near the fireplace, humming a lullaby. The warmth and the soft glow of the aurora made the house feel alive again. Months ago, it had been a monument to grief. Now it was full of breath, of noise, of family. Nathan walked outside, the cold biting his cheeks. He looked up at the streaks of light above the mountains. You see this, Grace? He whispered. They're safe. You can rest. Spring came early that year. The snow melted, revealing the green edges of the valley. Lily helped Rosa plant flowers around the property, her laughter echoing through the air. The once empty rooms were now filled with color drawings, taped to windows, baby toys, scattered across marble floors. One afternoon, while Nathan was stacking books in his office, Rosa entered with the mail. Her brow furrowed. Doctor, you might want to see this. The envelope bore Mark Reynolds' name. He tore it open, expecting another threat, but instead, It was a printed article from a local paper. A photo of Lily and Nathan, under the aurora borealis, filled the page. The headline read, "The Miracle at Silver Pine Hill. The Night a Child Saved a Family." Beneath it was a letter, handwritten by Mark. "I saw the article. You were right. Grace was right. I've hurt enough people. I'm leaving town for good. Take care of them." It's what she would have wanted. Nathan stared at the letter, quiet for a long moment. "He's gone," he said finally. Rosa exhaled in relief. Then maybe now, peace can stay. That evening, they built a small snowman on the hill behind the mansion. Lily gave it one of Nathan's old scarves. "He looks like Mommy," she said, giggling. Nathan laughed softly. "Then he's beautiful." As twilight deepened, the sky began to shimmer again. Faint ribbons of color like whispers of memory. Lily climbed onto Nathan's shoulders, pointing upward. "She's painting again," she said. He felt his throat tighten, his heart swelling with both sorrow and gratitude. "Yes, sweetheart," he said. "And I think she's painting for us." Back inside, he tucked the children into bed. The twins stirred. Lily hummed them to sleep, and the house fell into a soft, golden quiet. Nathan lingered by the door, watching them. "Thank you, Grace," he murmured, "for sending them to me." Outside, the wind rustled through the pines, a gentle, almost familiar sound, like a woman's laughter carried from far away. He looked toward the sky once more. The lights flickered, brighter, for just a moment, and he smiled. Autumn settled gently over Silver Pine Valley, painting the mountains in shades of amber and gold. The once isolated mansion on the hill no longer looked cold, it glowed. Windows, warm, with lamplight. Laughter echoing through the halls. A brass plaque now hung near the front door. The Grace Foundation, a home for new beginnings. Inside, Dr. Nathan Cole stood before a small crowd gathered in the grand hall. Reporters, neighbors, volunteers. People who had come to witness what had risen from the storm. Beside him stood Lily Carter, now 6, clutching a bouquet of white lilies. Rosa Martinez smiled proudly from the side, holding one of the twins, while the other clung to her shawl. Nathan cleared his throat, his voice steady, but full of feeling. "This house once stood as a monument to silence," he began. "For years I thought walls could keep the world out. But sometimes, the world knocks anyway, and brings you what you didn't know you needed." He glanced down at Lily, who looked up at him with the quiet strength that had carried her through a blizzard. "This foundation," he continued, "is for every child who's walked through the storm and every parent who thought they couldn't be forgiven. My sister Grace taught me that love doesn't end. It changes shape, and sometimes it comes knocking at your door in the middle of the night." Applause filled the room. Rosa wiped her eyes. Lily stepped forward, placing her flowers beneath a framed photograph of her mother. After the ceremony, as the guests drifted away, Nathan and Lily walked down the hill to the birch tree by the lake, the place where Grace was buried. The water shimmered under the afternoon sunday. Lily knelt, her small fingers brushing the grass. "Do you think Mommy can see us?" Nathan smiled softly. "I think she never stopped." She tilted her head. "Then maybe she's one of the stars." He nodded. "Maybe she's the brightest one." As twilight fell, they returned to the house. The twins giggled in Rosa's arms. The smell of cinnamon and apple pie drifted from the kitchen. It was a home messy, loud, alive. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Nathan stood by the window, watching the valley glow beneath a canopy of stars. He spoke softly, as if to the wind itself. "You were right, Grace. Family isn't about blood, it's about showing up when it matters, and I'll spend the rest of my life doing just that." A breeze swept through the open door, lifting the curtains gently. For a fleeting second, he could almost hear her laugh. A light, familiar sound carried through the pines. Nathan smiled, turned off the lamp, and glanced toward the children's room. Lily was asleep between her brothers, her hand resting protectively over them. He whispered, "Good night, my brave girl." Outside, above the glowing house on Silver Pine Hill, the first snow of the season began to fall soft, calm, forgiving. The house on Silver Pine Hill is more than a story about survival. It's a quiet reminder of how forgiveness can rebuild the parts of us we thought were lost forever. Beneath its snow and silence lies a truth that reaches every heart. Love is not measured by perfection, but by presence. The story teaches that healing begins the moment we choose to open our doors again to let others in, even after pain. It reminds us that family isn't always made of blood, but of those who stay when the storm comes. Through Lily's courage, Nathan's redemption, and Grace's final act of faith, we see how compassion can thaw even the coldest regrets. It urges us to listen to the small, brave voices around us, the ones that keep hope alive when logic says it's gone. In a world often rushing past human connection, this story slows us down to feel, to reflect, to remember that second chances are not gifts, they are choices. And when we choose love, forgiveness, and the courage to start over, we turn tragedy into legacy, loss into light, and a house of sorrow into a home of hope.